Welcome back to the AZ Hockey Podcast, your number one Arizona hockey podcast because nobody else wants to do it. I am your host, the YouTuber formerly known as the AZ Sports Guy, and the only man who will raise a banner for you, Matthew Jacobson. And I think we stumbled across a very adequate show today because obviously while trying to plan this show, it's like, oh, do we bring on a former writer, which stay tuned. No, it's not Craig Morgan. Do we just do a whole Phoenix Inferno episode? Nope, because Arizona hockey does what Arizona hockey does. Steve Peters has been on the podcast circuit lighting some fires. We got a real journalist getting some real quotes for the deputy commissioner and an update regarding Fire and Ice Arena. So we actually have plenty to talk about. We can talk about the Phoenix Inferno and their roster signings. They've signed a whole bunch of Arizona kids, a couple of former Mountain Ridge Mountain Lions, Camden Babin and Joshua Hyvärinen. So there's stuff to talk about, but for a later date. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This little bit will not be in the timestamps. I just want to get this one out of the way. Unfortunately, on August 20th, a ASU hockey player collapsed as part of a 40-minute team-sanctioned workout and was taken to the hospital. He is hospitalized. The player has not been named. The only thing we know about them is that they're one of the 18 or so newcomers to the program. But as of right now, the only updates we have is that they are hospitalized, and I just want to say I wish nothing but a full and speedy recovery. I do not care if this kid's supposed to be a star or a bench warmer that never plays. This is bigger than hockey. Not a little bit. It's bigger than hockey. So I wanted to talk about this only because I've seen some wild speculation on the Twitter. And look, I hate looking at it from this perspective. I understand if you're an opposing fan and it's a prospect in your system, you don't want them to get hurt. I get that. I saw at least a dozen people mentioning the same Columbus Blue Jackets prospect. The kid has not been named, and especially for the kid himself, as well as his teammates that had to see that and the kid's family, we should have just a little bit of privacy here. And again, reiterate, last update with the factual information, the kid is in critical condition, but nothing worse as of right now. I saw one person report that the kid had passed, or they heard the kid had passed, and I only found out about that because people in the comments were talking about that, and then I kind of traced it back to who originally said it. And it's one of those things where I really hope that's not the case. Like I said, as of right now, we do not think that is the case. But I really don't like the ambulance chasing, at least what feels like ambulance chasing, because yeah, it has to do with a hockey program and a player, and an investigation can look into the facts of the case and what happened. If there's going to be disciplinary action for anyone involved, like that'll be the correct process. I assume that will get done. Right now, it's not really helping anyone to speculate. So I just, please don't do that. It's kind of weird. So nothing but the best. I really hope this kid recovers. Again, I do not care if the kid's a fourth liner or an extra forward we're never going to see play. You never want to see something bad like that happen. So it happened around 8:30 a.m. Again, there's a lot of speculation of how hot it is. It does still get hot in Arizona. 8:30, like it's pretty common for these teams to be practicing early in the morning, to avoid that heat, and that would be around when the end of practice should be for most places, because even 9 a.m. it's still pretty hot. So just to get a couple of the facts in there, moving on to the next topic. There's no real good segue, but let's talk about the Fire and Ice Arena. So the NA3HL's Phoenix Inferno are going to play out of this arena. It's roughly 800 or so capacity. And, we've already talked about the arena a handful of times. I actually been in contact with Troy Mick to secure a third tour of the building, but when it's finished, so I can do some content on it. Stay tuned to JSN if you're interested. Nothing's finalized yet, but I was told of a meeting that happened on Wednesday, and then when I reached back out on Friday, I was told to wait until 5 p.m. There'd be an official announcement, and here is that announcement. I'm not going to read the whole statement, but I'll just go ahead and read good portions of it. So, an important update from Fire and Ice Sports Arena. We want to share an important update with our community regarding the opening of our new state-of-the-art sports and entertainment facility. Our original target opening date was September 1st. Unfortunately, we will not be able to open on that date. The delay was caused by the building waiting several weeks to receive power, a utility issue that was outside of our control. We now have the power, but those weeks could not be recovered. In total, we lost 4 valuable weeks of finishing work, but we'll be trying to make up for it as fast as we can. Here's where we stand today. Every major item required to open is already at the arena. Our team is working swiftly with our construction partners to finish the remaining work as quickly and safely as possible, so we can deliver a facility that meets the high standards we promised our community. Beginning Friday, August 28th, we will share regular weekly progress updates on our social media channels and at fireandicearena.com. Because we are starting the season later than planned, we will extend our season so it runs later as well. We will make sure you still get your full games and full practices, even with a delayed start. Thank you for your patience, understanding, and continued excitement. We can't wait to welcome you through the doors, the Fire and Ice team. And while obviously delays are never a good thing, at the very least, they're being transparent, and it seems like if you paid for ice time, you're still going to get that ice time. And I can understand, let's say you have a hockey league going from October to December, you're probably not going to be impacted by this. But I can also understand there's going to be some cases where, you needed to start by September 5th or something, and you just can't pick it back up, let's say sometime in March or February. So I would imagine there should be some wiggle room if people can't make it back out. But at the very least, they're at least saying, hey, you're still going to get your ice time. While it does suck to have a delay in construction, they're being honest about it, and hopefully nobody ends up losing any money on this. And as for the construction aspect, I have a little bit of construction experience, late teens, early 20s. I was mostly electrical work, some low voltage cabling, even went back to it after the incident. And, something that's supposed, like, just because they lost 4 weeks does not mean it's going to take 4 weeks to finish, but it also doesn't mean that it can't take more. So something that would take, let's say, a week could actually take 3 weeks because of delays or waiting on parts, or something isn't finished so you can't add your construction to it, or it could take as little as a couple of days. So those 4 weeks, realistically speaking, they could kind of push up against when the arena is supposed to open for the NA3HL season, but it could get done a little sooner than you think. It could be a little bit after that. But as of right now, I spoke with Coach Troy Mick. They are not expected to impact the NA3HL team right now. Their opening series is at Tulsa on September 11th and 12th, so that's obviously not going to be impacted. But their opening home series is against the Oklahoma City Warriors from the 25th to the 27th. That is, as of right now, it's supposed to go on a schedule, but technically speaking, if we're at the 23rd as of recording, you add a month onto that, you're pushing right up against that date. So there could be some wiggle room there. This is my first year covering NA3HL. I don't fully understand how everything works in terms of if you miss games, do they reschedule or just cancel? Coming from a lot of club hockey, they don't reschedule those games. So we'll have to wait and see on that. I'll have to get more information as I get a little more comfortable with covering NA3. But as of right now, it should not impact the start of the NA3HL season at home for the Phoenix Inferno. So unfortunately, a delay in the opening, but shouldn't delay the actual season. Now, moving on to the next topic, it's actually going to lead into the athletic article and the comments by Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly. But Steve Peters has been on the podcast circuit. He's been putting in those hours. I really wish you'd return my text. I'm just kidding. I would never text Steve Peters, but he's on, I think it's part of a daily face-off. It's a show called Morning Cup of Hockey, and I'm going to show you the tweet like after I get through this little bit I want to get through. But this is a testament to why it's important. If you get tiny bits of information, try to follow the source. So I went back, I watched the 40-minute little thing they did. It was a pretty fun conversation. You also have someone who's on that show who now works with the USHL. So somebody I might eventually actually run into covering some Prescott Valley stuff in the future. But the big part of the conversation that this just so happened to be in the middle of was about Leo Carlson and players getting paid and the cap and all that. And just with a tiny bit of context, Leo Carlson signed that 5-year, $18 million a year. And just to get it out of the way, my understanding, especially for the information in that show, is Leo didn't ask for it. So I'm not going to talk about him specifically. I'm going to talk about the concept and the conversation. But he was offered it, and it is kind of hard to turn down when you're offered pretty good money. So I get that perspective. But there is this kind of debate, and it's been raging on for years. And it's like, oh, well, it's not the player's job to manage the cap. That's a fact. But, it's their job to maximize their value. Also a fact. But I just find that weird, not calling out the people saying it, just like the actual mindset and the statement. Because we'll rightfully point out when like a corporation does that they're being greedy, or like a multi-billionaire, like I don't know, Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or something like that. Like, we'll rightfully call it out, but when it's, multimillionaire or below, it's like, oh yeah, get your bag, make as much as you can. And I just think the whole conversation is a little silly. I'll say silly because stupid is a little harsh. I think it's a little silly because the correct opinion is kind of right there in the middle. And it was actually said on the show a couple of aspects that I fully agree with, including if you're going to make that kind of money, you better be ready to have, your feet held to the fire. And you better be scoring 40 goals a year, whatever, 50 goals. You better be touching 100 points every year. If you're going to make this kind of money, yeah, and I think that's the correct way to look at it. If you want this because that's your maximum value, you got to give out maximum input. Totally agree with that. But the overall conversation is really dumb because it's like, you're right. It is not the player's job to manage the cap. And also, the GM should not just be straight up lowballing these guys. If you know this guy's worth $15 million, a $9 million offer is it's stupid. Like, let's be honest here. That's not based off like an actual thing, just like the concept of it. But but the actual thing is, if you want to, like, you cannot complain. They said this too. You cannot complain about not winning if you want to maximize that value. You're taking up 20% of the salary cap. I know it goes down over time when the cap goes up, but it's like you cannot complain that you can't win when you want to maximize what you're personally making. So the correct opinion is kind of right there in the middle. If you $15 million player on the open market, you should be willing to take 12.5 to 13 to save a little bit of cap space so your GM can bring in another player. Let's say before you only had 5 million and guys don't want to take that. Now you have a $7 million contract. Now you can bring in a higher caliber player, maybe a second center, maybe another scoring winger. It's something you need. You now have the financial slot to bring that in. So it's like, I think it's kind of silly I need to get every penny that I can get. You're still going to make a lot of money, and you should make a lot of money, especially if you're worth it. But it's like, if you want to win, you should be willing to take maybe 10% off of what you're actually worth. And I think that's the answer here. If you want to create, and Petey talked about creating a sustainable hockey team, you need to be very responsible with the cap. That's obviously coming from the organization perspective as well. But it's like, if you want to win, I'm going to sign here for 5 years. I want to be, in cup contention. Yeah, maybe freeing up $1 million or $2 million extra brings in another guy that helps you win, and you're not a team that only has 1 or 2 good guys and everyone else is just whatever. Like, in order to have an actual team play, you need 20 men that are out there on the ice every night. You can have upwards of 23. You have, your reserve players, but you need to have at least 20. If one player is taking up 20% of the cap, it creates issues where maybe you have to get an extra fourth line grinder that doesn't really fit what you need, or you have to rush a kid that's in the AHL or put out a career AHL player. And then now, not to pick on that one player, it creates a weak link and increases the likelihood of not winning games, which then, you can't complain about not winning and then, complain that you want to leave. So it's like, I thought the whole conversation was like, the correct answer was right there the whole time. And to be fair, these 3 individuals were saying a whole bunch of the correct opinions, like here and here and here, but it's like the whole conversation didn't need to be 40 minutes. It's a 2 minute. It's like, yeah, make the money that you deserve. But also, if you're going to make that money, it should come with, continuing that production. I also agree with Petey. I think no trade deals are going to be a lot more restrictive. The player empowerment thing you've already seen with other sports, especially the NBA. It's going to make its way throughout all the leagues, and then everything ends up balancing back out. Sometimes the organizations have more support than the players do. It's a pendulum. It'll find an equilibrium. It'll work itself out. But it's like, that's the correct opinion. The correct opinion is make what you can, but if you want to win, be willing to take a little bit off the top so you can field the rest of a good team. So it's like, you're not talking about an Isaiah Thomas situation where, unironically, that dude took a super team-friendly approach and got screwed, and I feel bad for him. But, like, I'm talking about just taking a little bit off the top. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I just wanted to talk about that, and I felt like I had more to say than just a tweet. Anyway, here's the tweet that I saw that made me watch all 40 minutes of that. So it's right here by NHL Rumor Report. Steve Peters, re-NHL expansion / relocation. There is so much smoke going on right now here in Arizona. So much going on right now behind the scenes. Just wait, Arizona fans. It's closer than you think. First and foremost, Relocation was not brought up. I understand the context of this tweet is like, hey, you know, Steve Peters is continuing a conversation on Arizona getting a hockey team. There's only two methods to do that: expansion and relocation. I get that, but like, I saw that word and I'm like, is it relocation? Like, the only thing, and this is a joke, guys. This is a joke. And I'm also wearing the Atlanta. We'll get to that in a second. This is just a joke. It's just memes. I was like, are we waiting for the Jets again out here in Arizona? Like, no. From my understanding, all 32 teams are financially stable, or at least stable enough. No one's moving. Yes, there was that couple of years ago. The Jets, like, oh, are they going to sell enough? I think it was season tickets or corporate dollars were starting to leave. It's like, from my understanding, they got that figured out. They ain't going nowhere. When Gary Bettman went to go visit, it wasn't to scold them and say you're leaving. It was just he makes his trips every year. So he tries to go. He even said in that press conference, I was watching it. I try to make a trip out to all the different markets every year, whenever he can. So it's like, I don't think relocation's on the table. So I get why it's there. It shouldn't be in that tweet because we're only talking expansion mode right now. But Steve Peters has been saying this for like a week now. Again, whole podcast circuit. Like, I'm out here. Things are going on. Yeah, things are going on. I'm the tidbit guy. If you want the full-fledged reporting, you go to Craig Morgan. If you want tiny little tidbits to give you a little sense of what's going on or potentially going on, right here, I'm your guy. What I've been hearing, and for context, I was actually getting ready to give up on the 5 to 7 year timeline because, not only was it was so eerily quiet, nobody was talking. And I am not important by any means, but a lot of this information, tidbits of it, tends to trickle down in the circles that I run in. So it's like the fact that I was hearing literal crickets, I was starting to get a little worried. Then over, let's say, the last 2 months, maybe month and a half, hasn't been very long, one city keeps coming up. And I talked about it as well when I went over that Craig Morgan article from, I think, 2 episodes ago now, is episode 2. And he brought up John Giles. He was the former mayor of Mesa who wanted to get the Fiesta Mall thing going, and it just didn't work out. I know the Coyotes also had a letter of intent on a different parcel of land in Mesa, which also didn't work out. I have no further information on that. Just know that it didn't work out. I'll have to brush up on some Craig Morgan reporting from back in the day to see if he let any details slip about that. But Mesa keeps coming up. Like, as I mentioned in that episode, Craig Morgan, at least I don't think, would be talking like that, like leaving so many breadcrumbs if we weren't supposed to follow them. Like, why else would you bring up a former mayor now being, a running mate of Katie Hobbs for re-election? Like, that's local politics in a hockey article. Get your politics out of my hockey articles, Mr. Gregory Morgan. So it's like, there has to be something here. And then I started hearing a little more very vague things. So I'm just going to say the vague things, but take this with a grain of salt. Mesa keeps coming up over and over again. That's the only city I've heard. That's why I tweeted out that stupid, like, 1940s or whatever picture of Mesa, the black and white picture, and the parody of Kevin Weeks. Oh, am I doing this right? But Mesa keeps coming up over and over again. And I heard probably within the last 2 weeks, this is really recent, that it is viewed internally as a race for that 34th spot, or else, like, it's now or never, essentially. Like that. And I don't know why, because we're going to 36 anyway. So, like, that's why this little tidbit of information just confuses me. But then again, all this Steve Peters stuff and the next thing we're going to talk about make me believe a little more is going on than I think people realize, including a couple of messages that I've gotten that said I was on the right track. Can't tell you who said it. No, it wasn't Craig Morgan. Only reason I keep saying that is in the past I've had people think I was closer with Craig than I am, and I don't want to ruin Craig's reputation by having, this face associated with it. So no, it wasn't that. But Mesa keeps coming up. There seems to be a push going on right now, which lines up with another small tidbit I was given months ago that I couldn't do anything with. When someone just tells you, yeah, something being put together, it's a long shot, and no context, like, what do you want me to do with that? So that's why I never mentioned anything about that. But you take that little tiny tidbit, the breadcrumbs Craig Morgan keeps laying out, how confident Thomas Galvin has been on social media lately, which, as I pointed out 2 episodes ago, he went from you're not going to hear anything for months, years at a time. We'll have news when we have news, going from we're going to under promise, hopefully over deliver, being super reserved and quiet, going from that to we're farther along than the other cities. That tells me something actually is going on. And Steve Peters continuously lighting fire on this. And recently, last 2 or so weeks, I've been a little addicted watching old PHNX Coyotes content. And I think it was in the episode of, I think it was still PHNX Coyotes, but it might have been PHNX. I think it was PHNX Hockey. It would have been around September or August or maybe July. No, draft time. Trying to get details in my head. I'm getting old. I apologize. It was somewhere around draft time, post-draft, and Steve Peters said over the next 12 to 14 months, so August, September, October of 2026, you're going to start to hear these rumblings. And Peters is partially responsible for all this rumbling, but the rumbling is here. Now, again, I need to stress this. That does not mean the team is coming right now. It does not mean that this whatever they're doing will work. It could get, anything could get delayed. It could get whatever. Anything can happen. I know Atlanta just got, I was reading the other week that Atlanta, one of their arena proposals got approved by, I think it was from the county, and now it needed city or something like that. But Atlanta, they are very far along. They've been working on this for years. I wouldn't expect there to be a big issue at this point. So it's kind of have to wait and see on that. So it's this push, they're going to 30, they're going to 36 anyway. The fact that I've been told it's internally a race between Phoenix and Atlanta for that 34th spot, or I was specifically told Phoenix, Atlanta, and Houston, but specifically Houston and Arizona, which I didn't really take that part too seriously, but also I have not taken Houston very seriously because I've not really heard many interesting things, but this is very interesting. We're going to talk about this right now. So per The Athletic, per real journalist Chris Johnston, who, disclosure, reached out to me after the incident a couple of years ago, and I gave him a couple little quotes, but this is from Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley. This is directly from him. Here's the tweet. The NHL is on track to award its 33rd franchise to Texas as soon as the end of the year, Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley told The Athletic. Friedkin's Pursuit Sports has already agreed to pay a $2 billion expansion fee to bring the team to either Houston or Atlanta, pending the ability to build an arena in one of those markets and secure final approval of the NHL's Board of Governors. And look, the only thing I was told about Houston was they weren't sure how serious it was. When the NHL, I think a week or two ago, announced that they were officially exploring either Houston or Austin, they were going to put a second team in Texas regardless. But they were saying, they came out and themselves announced they were exploring the market. I'm like, okay, well, Houston's a lock then. Whatever I had heard previously, clearly someone got serious. Houston is going to be 33. Well, technically, the Coyotes are 33, but when Houston comes in, the Coyotes go back to 34. And then if Atlanta comes in at 34, they get knocked to 35 because they're inactive still. Because they still haven't announced that they've voted on that to officially kill them. So they're still hibernating. But Houston is pretty much a done deal. And another thing I was told, I talked about it on Twitter a little bit, I was told the NHL wants to announce 2 teams at the same time, roughly around March or so. And Bill Daley was talking a little bit about it, I think last week, where he's like, yeah, we could look into that, announcing at the same time, but we don't necessarily need to. You could stagger them out. And, Vegas and Seattle got brought up. So you could do Houston for 29-30, Atlanta for 31-32, a little bit of a buffer. So it's you don't need to announce them at once, but I just thought it was kind of weird that they want to announce both these teams, but hopefully I've done a decent enough job laying all the tidbits out and the breadcrumbs to, again, follow down the path. Now it makes a little more sense why I'm hearing that it's viewed as, they need to get this done in Arizona, even though, again, they're going to 36. I don't know why. they're gonna hit 36 regardless. Like the Coyotes are, all you gotta do is build that freaking building and you're a lock. But anyway, continuing on. Quote, they're projecting the ability to start play in 29-30, Daly said. So we will have one down and potentially one to go. We have ongoing discussions with both people in the Phoenix marketplace, but also Atlanta, and then we'll see what comes of those discussions. Let me just say this one more time. The Phoenix marketplace. If you don't know what he's saying here, the greater Phoenix area. I don't think it's going to be in Phoenix. Now, that's not automatically a bad thing. It's also not going to Scottsdale. It's a very NIMBY community, which is weird. Most of the Coyotes fans are out there. So it's like, I know they would vote for an arena out there, but they are not the only people that live out there in Scottsdale. So it's like North Phoenix, I thought would have been a good location. Tempe is the best location. And I would really be curious if the new ownership group would open up conversations, or if ASU would still be interested in that failed arena project that fell apart between Alex Morello and ASU because Alex Morello couldn't have his little sports book, because if you can't have all the money, might as well have no money. Oh, and no hockey at all. No professional hockey in Arizona at all. See the last episode about that. Thanks, Alex. Anyway, moving on. Or at least back on topic. I really think Mesa could be the spot. I would still prefer Tempe. To my understanding, Mayor Woods even said that if the Tempe voters voted no on that Tempe Entertainment District project, they would not revisit it. I always interpreted that as no matter what, they wouldn't revisit it, not necessarily just with Alex Morello. I know there could be some wiggle room if it was completely privately funded with no like tax abatements or system like that. But I also thought like one of the propositions was to approve the land sale to begin with. Like I local politics is not my thing. I did my best to understand it 4 years ago when I was making stupid whiteboard videos that people still want to see for some reason. But like I'm a sports reporter now. I'm around the game and I talk sports now. And I do college football and arena football as well. Not local politics, but side note aside, there's a lot of smoke on this. This does not, I want to reiterate because I feel like some people misinterpreted what I was saying. So I'm going to put like the all caps here. Minimum, we are still 2 to 3 years out. Minimum, like stars align. This deal, like all the contracts get signed next freaking week, and we get a breakground date, and the NHL is like, cool, you have a breakground date, we'll go ahead and approve you. We won't announce you, but we'll approve you, or we'll approve you and then announce you in March unless you can't get it, like you can't break ground by that date, whatever. Like we're talking that. Like no matter what, it's still going to be 3 or so years. Like optimistically, this team is coming back. There's too much smoke. And I'm glad I stood by that 5 to 7 year timeline, because I think like I agree with Petey. Like, and this is not even me. Like I haven't met the potential owners. No one's talking to me. I'm getting the tidbit leftovers. I'm getting the little like, okay, you can have like the burnt outside noodle lasagna. Like you can have like the burnt outside noodles where you got to like get rid of the top layer and just eat the layer underneath. You can have that lasagna, maybe a corner piece with a little bit of the good stuff on it, but you are not getting the middle piece of lasagna. So it's like, I am not getting the stuff that a real journalist would get here, but what I've been getting, as well as kind of learning how people act and what's abnormal. Again, the Thomas Galvin example, going from silence, like, hey, we're not going to announce nothing, to being I'm him kind of energy out there on Twitter. Steve Peters doing this media tour where he's like, yeah, dog, they're coming back. Enough things are lining up, as well as with the stuff that I have been hearing. This is serious. That does not mean it won't fail. It could still fail. That does not mean it's getting announced tomorrow and we're playing in 2028 or 2029. there's a slim chance you're playing in 29-30. It's a slim chance. I think it's 20-30-31, but I'd like to get them back before the end of the 2020s. I wouldn't complain about that. But this is real. We don't need to get delusional about it. Like they are not coming back tomorrow. But I think Valley hockey fans can get excited for the future of hockey out here. It's bright. Again, I've talked about it before. This year, you're getting the USHL team. The women's club team at ASU just got a D2 team. ASU hockey is still going to keep on rolling. This will be the third year in a row that GCU is doing that tournament up north, which, speaking of up north, they're getting a USHL team that's going to start next season. And hopefully Ben Robert can figure out what's going on with the arena down here in Phoenix, and we'll get that USHL team in Phoenix. Things are happening all around hockey. More rinks are going up from Fire and Ice to I think it's called the Mosaic Project down there in Tucson. I needed to find out who to get in contact with to go take a look at it, because when I was doing a Tucson Saguaros game last year, I think it's on the other side of the freeway that you turn to get to the Keno complex, and I saw like the skeleton coming up. So it's like I'd be very interested to see what's going on there, because hockey belongs here. North, South, Central, hockey belongs in Arizona. I genuinely believe that. I don't just say that to pander. I ain't getting paid to say this. I'll be completely upfront. I've been doing Arizona sports content since 2018. Other than Locked On, I have not made a gosh darn rootin' tootin' penny off this. This is all for the love of the game, folks. This level of delusion is all for the love of the game. So no one's paying me to say that. It's coming back. The smoke is real. I can smell the fire. It's around the corner when things are really, really going to start getting going, and things are already going pretty fast. Like, can we just take a second? Can we pull back for just a moment? The team left April of 2024. It's currently August. It's been a little over 2 years, 2 full NHL seasons, 2 drafts, 2 Stanley Cups awarded since the Coyotes left. Gary Bettman already took meetings with Thomas Galvin late 24. We didn't get it announced until January of 24. Now we got, all the members of the committee. Andrea Doan is chairing the panel. Like this has been going at a steady pace. And then it just feels like we're hitting 120 miles an hour. I don't know if you turn around the bend and it's just a brick wall, or if you're turning around the bend and you can see the lights of the city, on the horizon, but this is a real thing going on right now. And get excited for the future of hockey here. Not that the Coyotes will be back next year. I would love it if in March, they announce it. Hey, Coyotes are coming back. Not, at the expense of Atlanta fans. Like, if I'd prefer the Coyotes get in first and then Atlanta just be 35, because I want my hockey team back. They like, I would like to take my child to a hockey game and it not be an Alex Morello owned team. So it's like, I would like my hockey team back. So it's like, I am willing to add on a year or 2 for Atlanta. But that's just me. I imagine any Atlanta fans would not be happy with that, but we're on the same team. We're just, competing with each other. Anyway, I have ranted, raved, and rambled enough. This is like the 18th take of this podcast. So I am going to go ahead and wrap this up so I can get this posted, get to sleep, and start working on some OUAZ football content. So if you're interested in anything like that, go ahead and stick around to JSN, Jacobson Sports Network, on YouTube and Instagram. And there you go. As for the state of Arizona hockey, things are looking very bright. That does not mean they're coming back tomorrow, but things are bright out here in the Valley of the Sun. I forgot that this is not a JSN video, so I almost said from Surprise, Arizona. From the West Valley in Arizona, all the way to your ear balls via the internet. I am Matthew Jacobson. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the AZ Hockey Podcast. And remember, hockey belongs in Arizona.